to the English language classroom. We shall do the 4th chapter, Rattrap, from our English textbook, Flamingo. Now, before we begin our lesson, tell me, learners, have you ever fallen to temptations, big or small, in order to gain something? And have your parents ever promised you your favorite ice cream for finishing that green leafy vegetable in your plate? Or maybe they have promised you a new bicycle if you score good marks in your examinations. Well, I'm sure the list of temptations can go on. And the most common trap that you all adolescents fall into is the bait that is laid by advertisements, isn't it? Well, learners, at the end of the lesson, you will be able to read the text of the lesson, Rattrap, with understanding and interpreting ideas. You will be able to infer meanings of new words and phrases and use them in your daily life. And also, you will be able to enrich your active and passive vocabulary. Well, this story is about a lonely, homeless peddler who makes rat traps for a living without much profit. And so, he sometimes even begs and steals to survive. It amused the rat trap peddler to think of the world as a big rat trap. He preferred to believe that all the material possessions of the world were a bait, exactly as the rat trap offers cheese and pork, and as soon as anyone lets himself be tempted to touch the bait, it closed in on him. He also felt the world was never kind to him, but he was proud of himself, of the fact that he had never got tempted by the material possessions. On one cold evening, he took shelter in the cottage of a lonely old man. The old man welcomed him, gave him dinner, shared his pipe, played majollas with him, and also confided in him about his income of 30 kronors. The next day, the peddler leaves the house along with the crofter, but comes back to steal the money. And he runs off into the woods to keep away from the people and gets lost in the jungle at night. And while he wanders, he realizes that the forest is like an impenetrable prison. He has also got caught in the rat trap, and that the money he stole was the bait. He staggered towards Ramseo Ironworks in hope of taking shelter for the night. The blacksmith and his assistant ignore him, but their master mistakes him to be an old acquaintance, Niels Olof. The ironmaster even invites him home for Christmas, but he refuses. But later he agrees again on the insistence of the ironmaster's daughter, Edla. They offer the tramp nice clothes, but once he is clean and shaved, the ironmaster realizes he has made a mistake and that the peddler was not his comrade. The ironmaster thinks he is a fraud and decides to turn him to the sheriff. However, the compassionate Edla insists on letting him stay and celebrate Christmas with them. Next day, at the church, the ironmaster and Edla learn about the incident at the old crofter's, which confirmed their fears that the peddler was a thief. They head home in a hurry, thinking he must have stolen all the silver. However, to their surprise, the peddler did not steal a thing and had already gone. He had left a letter addressed to Edla, signed as Captain Von Stahl, along with a rat trap as a gift from him. The note said, Since you have been so nice to me all day long as if I was a captain, I want to be nice to you in return as if I was a real captain. In the rat trap were also the 3 10-kroner notes of the crofter asking to return it to him. Learner, this is the story of a man who was assumed to be a thief. Later, people realized he was not. So what does it show, learners? Well, this definitely shows that we can change the world through kindness and compassion. And also, it teaches us a universal belief. And what is it? Yes, that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. Always remember, no one is error-free and anyone can succumb to temptations. So, my dear learners, always remember, one should think twice before judging, condemning or criticizing anyone. Now, learners, are you ready to do some small questions with me? Yes, look at your screen. The first question is, the rat trap peddler used to resort to A. Preaching, B. Counseling, C. Learning, and D. Thievery and begging. Think of the answer? Yes, you've got it right. The answer is D. Thievery and begging. The next statement says, the peddler compared the riches of the world to a, the first option is purse, B. bait, C. shelter, or D. opportunity. Yes, the peddler compared the riches of the world to a bait, option B. Now look at the third statement. It says, the peddler got unwanted joy from thinking ill of the world because A. it had stolen his money, B. it was always sympathetic to him, C. he was not bothered, or D. it had never been kind to him. Yes, you got it right. The answer is the world had never been kind to him. Now look at the fourth statement. The old man in the grey cottage. A. doubted the peddler. B. fought with the peddler. C. shooed away the peddler. Or D. welcomed the peddler. Yes, my dear learners. Remember, the old man at the cottage welcomed the peddler. Now look at the next statement. Kroner and majolis are local words of A. France, B. German, C. Sweden, or D. Ireland. Yes, you got it right. The answer is C. Sweden. And to share with you that this story is written by a Swedish writer, Selma Lagerlöf. Now look at the next statement. When the peddler walked and walked without coming to the end of the forest, he felt he had been fooled by, the option first is crofter, B. bait, C. prankster, or D. policeman. Yes, very true. When he ran away with the crofter's money, he felt he had been fooled by a bait. Now look at the next statement. The peddler entered the gate of the iron mill with the intention of A. meeting the iron master, or B. chatting with old friends, or C. asking for food, and D. seeking shelter from cold. Yes, my dear learners, you can recall that he was lost in the jungle and he was seeking shelter from cold. So the answer is D. Look at your screen. The next statement says, the ironmaster took the peddler for A. the crofter, B. a relative, C. an old servant, or D. an old regimental comrade. Yes, you got it right. The ironmaster mistook the stranger for an old regimental comrade. Now look at the next statement. Who finally convinced the peddler to go to the ironmaster's house as guest for Christmas? A. The guard. B. The blacksmith. C. The ironmaster. Or D. The ironmaster's daughter. Yes, my students, you are absolutely right. It was the ironmaster's daughter who finally convinced him to come to their home. Now, look at the next statement. On seeing the rat-trap seller groomed by his valet, the ironmaster felt A. Angry, B. Suspicious, C. Happy, or D. Not pleased. Yes, you are right. He felt very angry. Now look at the next. The rat-trap peddler left a letter with a package signed as A. The tramp, B. The thief, C. Captain Von Stahl, or D. The peddler. Yes, my dear students, the note that he left for Edla, he had signed it as the option C, Captain Von Stahl. Now learners, we have gone through the summary and done some multiple choice questions. Now let's go through some expressions from the text and try to infer their meaning. And yes, this will definitely strengthen your vocabulary. Look at the first statement. But even so, business was not especially profitable, so he had to resort to both begging and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. Look at this expression, to keep body and soul together. Now let us look at another sentence using the same expression. A great actor had once said in his interview that in his struggling days, he used to earn just enough to keep body and soul together. Now look at the next expression. She did not earn enough from her job to keep body and soul together, so she took up another side job in order to supplement her income. Now from the usage, let's try to infer its meaning. The expression keep body and soul together. Yes, my dear learners, this means managing to stay alive with very little money, or we can say barely enough to pay for the basic necessities like food, shelter and clothing. Now look at the next sentence. Even so, his clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken and hunger gleamed in his eyes. Now I want you to look at my face expressions and judge how am I feeling. Yes, you can see that I am happy. Now again look at my face expression. Yes, you can observe now that I am angry. So my dear learners, you can see our face is a reflection of our feelings. Now look at this sentence. The poor stray dog looked at us as hunger gleamed in his eyes. Now this sentence very easily helps us to infer that the expression hunger gleamed in his eyes, this means that one's eyes and face reveal that the person is very hungry. So my dear learners, I hope we are enjoying learning the expressions. Now look at the next sentence. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond who plods along the road left to his own meditations. Now look at this picture on the screen. What do we infer? How is the man walking? He seems to be walking slowly with heavy steps. Now I want you to identify words in the story which have similar meanings. Trudge, stagger, remember the stranger staggered towards the iron mill? And also let's see how they have been used. Well, these words have been used to indicate movement accompanied by weariness or tiredness. So, plods along the road, now we can infer it means to move along the road slowly but deliberately, to walk with heavy feet. Now look at the next sentence. The world, of course, had never been kind to him, so it gave him unwanted joy to think ill of it in this way. Now, my dear learners, look at this visual. What do you see? A still from the movie Dumbo Elephant. Now, is it often that you see an elephant flying? But in this fictional story, the elephant seems to be flying. And does this not give some people unusual pleasure? Well, from this you can easily make out that unwanted joy refers to unusual pleasure or happiness. Now look at the next sentence. The whole forest with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs closed in on him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. Now to understand this, let's break the word im plus penetrable. Now this word penetrable is taken from the word penetrate, which means to go through into something, especially with force or effort, and its opposite is impenetrable. So now let's infer its meaning. Impenetrable prison would be a place from where it is impossible to break through. Now look at the next statement. He asked permission to stay and the blacksmith nodded a haughty consent without honoring him with a single word. Now here, let's look at the opposite of the word haughty. It means modest or humble. And what is the opposite of the word modest? Arrogant. So, we can deduce that haughty means to behave arrogantly. Now, in the text, it would be that the master blacksmith arrogantly gave the peddler permission to stay. Now, look at the next statement. Naturally, the first thing that he saw was the tall ragamuffin who had eased his way so close to the furnace that steam rose from his wet rags. Now, let's make a sentence out of this phrase, eased his way. The school function had already started, so Geeta eased her way to the seat without disturbing others. So, we can infer that eased his way means to move slowly and carefully. Now, let's look at the next expression. But one day, this man had fallen into a line of thought which really seemed to him entertaining. Now, people following the same guru generally have a similar line of thought. And same way, we can also say that it is not necessary all family members have the same line of thought. So now, my dear learners, tell me, what is the meaning of the word fallen into a line of thought? Yes, a particular way of thinking that is characteristic of some individual or group. Now, look at the next statement. Yes, God knows things have gone downhill with me, he said. Let's look at the statement. After his father died, things have gone downhill for his entire family. So, we can easily infer that the expression things have gone downhill means to worsen or deteriorate. Well, my dear young learners, you all are familiar with the game of Antakshari? Want to play? So, let's play an Antakshari of expressions. This will also let me know that how carefully did you work out on the expressions. So, let's make a WhatsApp group of maybe 3 to 6 friends and play this game. So, are you ready? Okay. Let me start. I say the first expression, impenetrable prison. So, now you have to say a phrase starting with the letter of the N, because prison ended with N. And what could it be? It could be nodded a haughty consent? Or maybe any other phrase from your previous knowledge like, let me guess, necessity is the mother of invention? So similarly, you may continue with your friends. Now when we said nodded with a haughty consent, it ended with T. So maybe we can say next, things have gone downhill, and so on and on and on. This way, my dear learners, you're going to play, enjoy, as well as recapitulate the expressions that we did today. And now I have another interesting activity, and this is going to review your vocabulary and enrich it further. Now in the story, we came across this word crofter. Well, a crofter is a person who owns a small farm. Now look at the screen. You have to complete this brainstorming activity around the word a small farmer so that you get a sun ray effect as shown in the screen. Like in our country, we can have another name for small farmer like Kisan, agriculturist. Now, I am not going to tell further. The rest is for you. Well, my dear learners, are you ready to do some sketching and drawing? Well, I want you to depict the story in the form of a comic strip showing conversation between Peddler, Iron Man and Edla in dialogues. You can see a sample of it on the screen. Now complete it yourself and feel free to use your imagination. Now, one more interesting thing I've got for you. Look at the screen. What do you observe? Remember, you've done this in your science classes. Yes, a huge blast furnace. Now, read the story again and pick out other words and phrases that are specific to the terminology of ironworks and mention them around the pick of blast furnace like I have done it for you. Well, learners, you have developed active and passive vocabulary and have also comprehended the message of compassion, forgiveness and kindness conveyed in the story. And I'm sure you've developed your imagination power, and when you are going to do the drawing and sketching, you will exhibit a lot of creativity. Well, my dear learners, in this episode, we did the summary of the chapter Rattrap. Along with that, we developed expressions and inferred their meanings. And yes, we also developed our vocabulary. And I hope you enjoyed doing it as much as I did it.